and good afternoon, and welcome to the Narrowbox Comics channel. Today we're talking about crossover events. In particular, we're talking about Secret Wars. Secret Wars 1, the very original Secret Wars, and this Secret Wars, whatever Secret Wars that was. So, before we do that, I just wanted to say I was at Guildford Comic Con the other day, promoting my new book, Intrepid, and I had a great time. Met some great people, sold a few copies, gave out a few Cadbury's cream eggs. So if you saw me there, I hope you enjoyed the book. Next time, if you didn't buy the book, go buy the book. I met some fellow creators. John Charles, creator of Techno Freak, he was there, and we got talking. Now we're best buds. So I hung out with him on Monday, and we had a chat about the contract and the comics industry. We met up with some other artists, and we did some drawing and some drinking. It was good fun. So yeah, Guildford Comic Con was an absolute blast. I'm going to be back at Guildford in July, so you'll be able to meet me there. There'll be issue 2 ready, maybe even issue 3. Not sure what the schedule's looking like with Narrowbox at the moment, but yeah, that's what we're doing. So, without further ado, getting back into the subject at hand, Secret Wars. Now, in my video when I was doing Big Game review, Mark Millar's Big Game, I talked about how it was a great crossover and it didn't require huge amounts of past information to understand. So that was the main selling point of that as an event, and it's been very successful for him, and unsurprisingly so. And people would say, "Oh, it's because he's a big name. It's a big name, and that's why he gets people want to buy his book because he's a big name. He's a big name." Yes, he is a big name. He's well known in the industry. And so is Jonathan Hickman, you know? But I would argue that this book, Secret Wars, is not as good as this book, Secret Wars. Although creators might like to say it is, the sales figures of old comics were much, much higher. And obviously it's not really fair to compare apple and oranges. Today, kids have got way more things that they can draw their attention away from. So whereas back in my day, we had 4 channels of TV, or 3 channels for a long, long time of TV, and nothing else. Comics were like the only thing. Modern day, you got Fortnite, you got Call of Duty, you got all kinds of Xbox and PlayStation games, you got the internet, you've got multiple channels you've got Twitch, you've got Kick, you've got everything that could take a person's interest. There is something out there for them. So comics, it's not surprising that comics is kind of like the poor stepchild in that family, you know, the runt of the media litter. But I don't think that that's entirely accurate. And Mark Millar proves it time and again with his books that there is an audience out there to be served. Now, I would say about Secret Wars, this original Secret Wars, one of the biggest things that's ever leveled against it, one of the biggest criticisms is it was made to sell toys. Well, comic books are made to make money. They are an entire industry built on the premise that you entertain people and they give you money for it. Say that this comic book is not good because it was made to sell toys is like saying that all comics are bad because people have to buy them. It's a nonsensical argument. For me, I'm going to come at this and show you what I meant. When I was 9, I saw this cover on the rack at Pound Stretcher. It was on the front cover of an annual in 1980 something. It was about 9, so it was about 1985 or 86, I can't remember. But basically, I only knew Spider-Man and I knew Hulk. And the reason I knew those characters is because I had Amigo figures of them when I was young. So much younger. When I was 5, I got Amigo Spider-Man and Amigo Hulk for Christmas. So those are the characters I knew. I watched the Fantastic Four cartoon when the Thing was in it. So it was that one where in the 1960s where the balls fill up the room when they're in their civilian clothes and then they turn into the Fantastic Four, and yeah, the balls, I don't know. I barely remember it. So yeah, but I had a passing interest. I didn't know who she was, didn't know who she was, didn't know who he was, didn't know Iron Man, didn't know Colossus, didn't even realise that She-Hulk was related to Hulk. Didn't know who this was. soon learned to love him. Captain America, vaguely aware of Captain America. Didn't know who he was, didn't know who she was. Thought he looked cool, didn't know who he was. So this was my introduction to all those characters. So right off the bat, you've got to now introduce all these characters to young me who doesn't know this. So let's open them up and see how they deal with this. There it is, front page. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. We've got our introduction and suddenly, poof, the plot appears. Spider-Man's the first to react. Most people know Spider-Man. Even people who have never picked up a comic in their life know who Spider-Man is. And immediately, oh yeah, it is the Fantastic Four. That's what I was like, oh yeah, Fantastic Four. Wow, this guy looks cool. Who's that? The Thing, yeah. The Human Torch. Isn't there another woman in the Fantastic Four? Oh, who cares? Oh, Little Dragon, what's that all about? So immediately, I'm intrigued. The war begins. Now, immediately the focus is taken away from the characters and put on the situation. Now we know to focus on the situation. These characters are shocked. They're shook, as they say nowadays. They don't know where they are. They don't know how they got here. So that's mystery number one. Will it be solved in the book? Well, we don't know, but to my young mind, immediately my mind starts, oh, how did they get there? What's this? What's that? And then the villains appear. Like quickly, we move from an introduction from the start. So we get an intro to who all these characters are, their names at least. Then we move on to the villains. Same format. Now, this sort of writing would be frowned upon nowadays. It's not particularly effective or interesting way of... Sorry, it's not an interesting way of bringing in new characters, but it is an effective way. Just in case you know, I'm going to go right through this book, so spoilers, I guess. So we get some great artwork. I mean, this picture, this rendering of Professor Charles Xavier and Colossus here. I really love that panel. Just it sticks out in my mind. I don't know why. And then we get this Magneto. He's on the good guy side. Now that's another level. For me, what stuck out in my mind was that they introduced an element of drama into the introduction phase of the plot. And then we have Magneto showing he's Magneto, and that's exactly what we love about Magneto. He's always Magneto. So then we get this great idea. The entire universe gets wiped out, and the only things left in it are those two ships. An existentially terrifying concept, but one that I just completely skipped over. And then we see the creation of Battleworld. You know, the Beyonder takes remnants of a universe and builds Battleworld. Now, I often think that he destroyed the entire universe here, and then, you know, created Battleworld from the remnants of it. Really, like, ramping up the stakes, but without it being explicitly said. You can restore your entire universe if you win my game. Look at that. Cool adverts. I love these adverts. Anyway, sidetrack. So then we get some intrigue going on the villain ships. Villains don't play well together. They don't like taking orders. They don't do things that they want to do. And villains have their own ulterior motives. And Ultron kicks off. And immediately, Doom is the one that realizes there's only one person on that ship who can stop him. Well, maybe two people, but the other person would not give a crap. And obviously Galactus doesn't care. So immediately, Doom uses Molecule Man to get Ultron into Galactus's view. And I just love that scene. I was like, wow, what can that guy do? The gigantic guy, I don't know who he is, but he can do some cool stuff. And they didn't seem to be bothered about standing at his feet. But, you know. So I didn't know Galactus didn't know anything. But he's a baddie. He's got to put on the baddie side, which is interesting when you start to learn who these characters are. That's an interesting concept. And then we see the introduction of the Beyonder. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. That, to my young mind, is the entire goal of the plot. That's it. My young mind's like, whoa, you can have whatever you want if you win. Totally kill them. And this kicks off. This big guy can fly, and he can breathe in space. And then we see this. Doom is like, oh, Doom. Doctor Doom. Now, well, I vaguely knew Doctor Doom from Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends and other stuff. But I didn't know anything about his character. So immediately we get a sense of this is not a normal villain. This villain is not a normal villain. He's an ambitious, clever, resourceful villain. And he is not going to just sit around and take it. So I got a sense of his power from these panels. 1, 2, 3 panels that he's featured in. So subtly, the writers are already putting forward their best ones, their best villains, their best heroes. And I'd say it's almost villain focused because it's Magneto again. So we're back from Doom to Magneto. You know, the power scaling is set up. The Beyonder has knocked back Galactus. Galactus is not important to the plot yet. And so, we get some cool stuff that starts to happen. Magneto kicks off. And he says, there's only one person in this room that can deal with me, and that's Thor. Which again is like, Thor, the guy with the hammer. Right, okay. So he's powerful then. And see, this is how it worked. They focused on the things that kids mattered. It mattered to the kids. Who's the strongest? Who's the toughest? Who's the bravest? These are all things. Then we get, so to answer the question of who's the bravest, we immediately get, the most powerful guy says he'd defer to the small guy. Captain America. So he must be some kind of leader. He's a leader of the Avengers. So we know that he's a leader of the Avengers. We know that a god thinks he's brave. Then we see Galactus taken out, but Doom walks away. So we know this guy, not only is he powerful, he's a badass. And so, I love this. The bitch slap. Molecule Man, the most powerful villain in the Marvel Universe. Bitch slapped by Doom. Brilliant. And then Doom's like, you know what? I'll take them all on my own. Don't need you. And then Kang, being a treacherous piece of crap, shoots Doom in the back. Doom's dead. Damn. I like that guy. That's a real shame. But of course, we've just seen him get butt slapped. He's not dead, yay! Then the heroes find him. Is he going to join the heroes? Nope. And immediately, he decimates the heroes too. And then after that, it's a straight up fight. So, we've been introduced to the characters. We've been introduced to the situation. This book has done everything it needed to do in the first issue with pure excitement. I had nothing. When I finished that annual, my poor brain was scrambling. It's like I didn't even understand that these were sequential comics coming out monthly. So I had no idea how I was supposed to ever find out what happened after that panel, that final panel of that issue. So I reread that issue. I must have read it like 50 times, 100 times. And then I went out and bought all the toys, every one that we could afford. So I had Spider-Man, I had Captain America. I got Wolverine, still didn't know who he was, but I liked him because he's the one that turned around and said, we're under attack. So I knew he's a good hero. And then on the back of the packs, they had the characters' names and their bios. And so I thought, it's cool. Adamantium skits, blades, and, healing factor. Cool. So I got Iron Man as well because I thought he was cool. And I really, really wanted the Thing and the Hulk, but they didn't come out with those. And I really wanted, I wanted Colossus. I was really keen. But obviously they came out so slowly, and the whole thing was a bit of a mess, the release. But the book itself, it completely captured me. So the very next thing I asked for was comics. When I realised that these were comic books, that's what I got into. And my first book my mum got me was The Punisher, the 5th issue of The Punisher, which was pretty dull, but pretty cool. And she got me Marvel Tales Spider-Man 187, I believe. It was a reprint. It was great. Spider-Man v. the Rhino. So yeah, so this was a great book. It brought me into it, and it made me want to find it. Now, then I got this, and obviously we were introduced. So this is a reprint of the story, and then we get these cool introductions. So this is how Spider-Man came across the ship in Central Park. That's fantastic, and that's how they all ended up inside. So, you know, when I got this reprint, this explained a lot, because I didn't bother to search through these. I just started collecting comics, and I learned who all these people were holistically. But it still, to this day, it tickled me that there was a time before Secret Wars, a time where these heroes had met intermittently, and then it led into this. So, yeah. So let's look at this one by contrast. Now, but when this came out, I hadn't been reading comic books from about year 2007 to 2016. I hadn't really bought comics on a regular basis. I picked comics up, odd comics and trade paperbacks, but I hadn't really bothered with comics for quite some time. So I was kind of out of the picture. But I thought I'd give this a go. And I got the trade paperback of this, and the first thing I met with, and so I'm kind of coming in cold, like to the universe again. And the first thing, and I was reading Ultimate Comics for a while, so so I stopped buying mainstream 616 comics, and I was focused on the Ultimates, Ultimate Fantastic Four and the Ultimates. And so I wasn't really familiar with all of these 616 characters and everything that was going on. I didn't even collect Ultimate Spider-Man, it didn't really appeal to me. So the first person we see is Valeria Richards. So she's clearly something to do with the Fantastic Four. Then she gives us some spiel, tells us this clock is critically important to the plot. Spiel, more spiel. And then, oh look, they're building a ship. Looks very much like the 1984 Secret Wars ship. Is there any relevance? Is there a connection? Turns out no, there's not. And there may well be somewhere hidden in the encyclopedia library of Marvel continuity. There might be a nod or a reference, I don't know. But anyway, more background information. Something to do with the Illuminati. I was familiar with the Illuminati, but I didn't really understand the relevance of it. It was just a plot device, but it's a plot device that got used across every book to explain everything. And it was fine. Not really my thing. We get more background information. None of it particularly compelling or interesting, but the artwork is absolutely fantastic. So the world's ending, all the multiverse is ending because the Beyonders that ran the universe have decided to do something or come back or whatever. And then we're into the actual beginning of Secret Wars. Now, I love Doctor Doom. Obviously, for years and years, I've loved Doctor Doom. Ever since I discovered him in the pages of Secret Wars, he's been a great character. But this story didn't really do anything for me. It didn't make me love the character more or expand upon him. I just, there's been much better Doctor Doom stories over the years. I like his attitude. I like his arrogance. I mean, I've got an old Spider-Man where he walks through the airport and he's Latvian royalty, so he's not allowed. He's completely immune to prosecution. He doesn't even have to follow basic rules. He's got diplomatic immunity, just walks through the airport in his armor that can shoot lasers and fly and create shields and just create general havoc. See, that's the Doom I love. This Doom becoming a god, and then we're flicking back to a different Earth and a multiverse of Earths. Characters that I know and some I don't. And immediately confronted with this massive realization that if I'm ever going to understand this book in its entirety, I'm going to have to read about 4 years of back issues to understand any of it. The continuity's all messed up. I don't know. I thought Ultimate Spider-Man was dead. So we're back on Earth 616. We're fluctuating backwards and forwards between Earths. This looks like Ultimate Iron Man fighting the 616. It should have been its own event, and it should have been a smaller event. Maybe it was. I don't know. Again, I'm reading this book as a noob, so I don't know. As a reader, a newbie reader, I'm stunned by the art. It's fantastic, but I'm bored with the story. It feels like a drag, despite all these amazing things going on. So anyway, we continue on. And whatever's going on happens. And then I think, as we get further into the story, the Beyonder ships that we saw in original Secret Wars are life rafts for the destruction of the universe. And I remember when I picked this issue up in Forbidden Planet in 2016 or something like that. And I read it and I was like, what is this? I don't know what this is about. I don't know any of these characters. This is when they just started trying to force Captain Marvel into absolutely everything. And the plot is, 2 universes collide. Dr. Doom finds a way to save us and becomes God of his world. And so we jump. We see the end of the universes. And we jump to this universe. So now really, this is the starting point. And so we've got all this build up to get to the start of the story. Now the other start was the Doom and Richards, and this was kind of like a prologue. So the most logical thing would have been to arrange this as a prologue and then go straight into this. And then skip all that out. That could have been done in retro. But no, this is a long, convoluted, frustrating and annoying story. And you have to have in-depth knowledge about all the characters, all their arcs, who they are, what they do, what they represent, whose side they're on. And there's 2 universes of that to get through. This story, this is it. Self-contained. It was just Secret Wars, 12 issues of Secret Wars, like this probably was, but each one came with tons of homework. I'm not going to go in depth on all the problems that causes, but Stan Lee once said, just remember that every comic book you make is somebody's first. And it just seems like this Marvel has forgotten what this Marvel knew. So all the criticism that's leveled against this Secret Wars, and people who say that this Secret Wars is really good, they're coming at it from different angles. Like, this is a lifelong fan of Marvel enjoyment level. Like, I can understand how lifelong fans would enjoy this. But for me, as a creator myself, this is what I strive to make. And you can call me nostalgic or say that my attitude is wrong, but this is what I aim to make. It's concise. It's simple. It brings all the readers in on the same level, so everyone gets to enjoy the story. No one's scratching their heads. And even at the points where you are scratching your heads, it's like, well, don't worry about that. Just get on with the story. At no point did this ever feel like it was doing that. And I think this is the thing about lots of Marvel events. They don't hold your hand. They don't help you out. And that's fine. Some people like that. And I don't hate this thing's existence, but it clearly is borrowing from the 1984 and then trying to erase everything it did. Personally, I love the Beyonder. I think he's a great character. To have that kind of godlike character come down and then be in the story for Secret Wars 2. Now, Secret Wars 2 was a mess. It was a mess. I'm not going to deny it. But there were some great stories that came out of it for young me. And they still stay with me today. And I'm sure it's the same with this, but these stories are, the way into these stories is so convoluted, so difficult to get into. It just makes it impossible. And it feels like, as much as this one was made to sell toys, this one is made to sell endless back issues and convoluted streaming platforms that stream comics to your phone. It feels like it's vying for attention, trying to demand attention away from other media that kids are more interested in. And for me, it's an ultimately destructive thing to do. That's just my take. I'm interested to hear what your take would be. Please leave something in the comments. It's a conversation. I mean, I could go on all day long about how Marvel's abused this type of event and created this kind of homework level to sell books needlessly. You're creating plot for the sake of having plot. You're creating drama out of nothing and leads nowhere. This was concise. It was to the point. It was light-hearted in places. It was full of interesting little side plots that didn't take over the main plot. There were some great character moments. I'd love to hear what your favourites. I'd love to hear what both of you, what you thought on both of these books. I'd love to hear, because for me, I just never understood this one. But that's maybe because I was out of the loop for a long, long time. So yeah, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of thing. This is the sort of conversation that we like to have at Narrowbox. We're always trying to understand what it is that other comic companies do right, what other comic companies do wrong, because we want to do the same things that they get right. For me, this is what we're going for. This is what we're going for. So, as much as I love Jonathan Hickman, this is on my no list. If you agree, leave a like. And if not, leave a comment. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.